I would like to talk about urbanization and Beijing. As you know, Beijing is notoriously as it sets fruitful sources of materials in terms of case studying as a failure for the urbanization or urban planning or what we do. But it's a kind of a love-hate situation. Then this is a very fertile ground for us to encounter the extreme situation in Beijing. So it has a very bad impact regarding the urban impacts, but as well as it might be providing nutritions or thoughts or practices for the future. So I would like to set the topic on urbanization as disaster, because we all know that we can't avoid urbanization at this moment. It has been accelerating in the world. At a global level, we put urbanization speed as vivid, which is every 4 days there will be a new Seattle coming up on the horizon. And in China, at this moment, the urbanization rate is, imagine every year, we will generate a new city in a population scale of Rome. So, as when we talk about urban planning, the urban planners, they love the concept of condensity, a proximity in the city, which provides a more human scale of living and working. But it also creates a more extreme, challenging situation of security and disaster. This is the most recent extreme disaster in the explosion in Tianjin city. And at the August 9th, where this huge explosion happened during the night. And from this view, you can see that there's a whole new landscape created by this disaster of explosion of this giant pit, like hit by a outer space cosmo objects. And it's so close to the neighborhood that you can see the nearest residential area is just 600 meters away from the pit. And it also affects like 11 neighborhoods, residential area, in kilometers range. And in 4 kilometers from this spot is the secret Chinese high-speed computer center, which is located. So imagine if this situation happens every month or on a more dense, regular basis, how we deal with it. And now I would like to zoom the scope back to Beijing, as Beijing, again, is very notorious for the climate as first. The city is known as lack of water. So actually, we are dying for more rain every year. But every summer, when it rains, it will create, people might call it flooding, but actually it's not. When we look at the water management or water concept, actually, with this situation, it's called waterlogging. Waterlogging means if a city with less adequate, sufficient infrastructure for sewage system, when it's heavy rained, the road network or the sewage system cannot absorb the water at a very fast, limited time. So it creates ponding or waterlogging issues in the city everywhere. And it's different from the flooding situation where the city is rich with the water network, say river or lakes, when it's heavy rained, it will raise the water level. So it brings a new perspective for us to relook at the waterlogging issues in Beijing. We have experienced the worst crisis in 3 years ago in the summer of July, where the serious pouring downfall of the rain that make 77 deaths in the city. Can't imagine, because people are lack of self-survival skills, of knowledge, of driving the car into the tunnel that they think it's safe in the water level, but actually it's not. So these are the images from the, including 3 years ago and also this year, in July and August, we also met the similar situation. So very typically, like Beijing is, we can joke about the road network is built for parking lot. Actually, Beijing is the biggest parking lot as a city. And as well as Beijing, during the rain, that the whole city, lack of water, can be turned into a sea. So people can enjoy the sea view after the rain. This kind of temporary, disastrous, created extreme landscape that can be provided for a city of citizens that's so dying for the water. So what we can do from after these disasters, many citizens as well as professionals, they team up to think about. From the urban planners level, that we, of course, use the computer model to calculate, make some calculation of the city to identify which are the most dangerous area, risky area in terms of when it's heavy rainfall. So from this map that we can identify, there can be over 200 of spots are deadly when it's heavy rained. And we color coding it into different level, from like 0.5 meter height in the blue color into the red color, which means from the 0.5 meter to 1 meter. And above 1 meter is the purple. So you can see that there's some kind of a very extreme and dangerous spots. And we convert that into a risk assessment map that can providing a more like a 3 tiers of risk level in terms of average level, and then dangerous level and the severe level. And then we also map it with citizens' input, because the computer generation, the computation is not enough. And what are the citizens' interests in this city? Because they live, not everyone live in every spot of the city, that there must be some of the areas there are the most traffic and the most livelihood happen. So we launched this platform to publish the 211 risky spots and invite the citizens to input by using their mobile phone. So you can simply just upload a photo and describe, like make simple options and selections of how severe in your area. And also we work with a mostly used kind of a Google map, which is banned in China. There's a 高德地图, which is a map, which is very well made, and everyone use that in the mobile phone. So we had this kind of a ponding map, a special layer of point of interest map embedded in the A map. So you can very easily turn that into. And then now the country is in the ambition of looking at the sponge city idea, where we should look at a city as a kind of organic body of a sponge, which can react to different kinds of water conditions and rain conditions. Okay, so that's the natural disaster that we encounter in the city. Next, I would like to talk about some of the social disasters that we see. So first, you might be met this guy today in the Langestrasse, that's on the way to the post city, and this happens everywhere, the beggars. And I would like to zoom back to Beijing with the beggars, special beggars group. We call them gray people. they they work in the subway. It happened in other countries as well, I'm sure. But there have been a significant amount of such kind of beggars. They work solely in the subway for living. And they are so mysterious that we don't know how many are they, and where do they live, and how long do they work in the subway. Sometimes they becomes a little bit annoying that people don't want to face them. Okay. And this is some of the background that Beijing in the last 20 years has been growing in terms of a population. Now it's 21 million already. And in terms of the metro line, grows from 5 kilometers now to, I forgot the number, it might be 50 or 100 kilometers, which is on the right side. And there's some of the nice images of we used to have this paper train ticket, the subway ticket. Now it's turned into the smart card. And actually, the great people who are working in the subway, there are three kinds of people. On the upper left side is like a beggars, and right side is performers, like in the subway. And lower left side is the leafletters, like they hand out leaflets, and it's kind of sometimes annoying in the subway. So now, because everyone has to use the smart card in the metro, so we used a little bit data mining, although this is very simple to some of the data experts here, but it's a nice data journey here. We used the data mapping to pull out the data from the smart card, and we found the interest is to identify the extreme commuters. And we found out there are 4 types of extreme commuters. These yellow, if you can see the mouse. No, it's okay. The upper yellow, which are the early birds, who they get up so early that they have to commute to their working. And the second layer is the late O, who have to OT every night and work until almost midnight and get back home. And the third types is the tireless, or the longest commuters. They commute like 20 kilometers to work. And the last one is the repetitors. They kind of every day, they kind of like hopping a lot in between the 2 locations. And these 2 yellows are referred to home location and office location. So you will find very interesting situation in Beijing if you had an experience of living in Beijing that different neighborhoods has different characters. That's to me, it's really fascinating to have this little find out. And also, then through that data, we identify who are the most extreme. They spend the longest time in the subway over the last 10 days. Then, because some of the extreme data might come from some errors or whatever. But if we consistently find the extreme behavior over the last 10 days, and who spend very long time in the subway, then they could be the great people. So we can see from this data that the great people, on average, they spend how many hours in the subway? More than 8 hours. So imagine on a normal person would spend 9 to 5 to work in the office, but the great people, they work in kind of mobile style in the subway. And their start to work hours and ending work hours is synchronized with the 9 to 5 pattern. So they kind of, you leverage the most like a rush hour because it's the most traffic in the subway, so they can back and they can get more income. And then we're trying to pinpoint them in the Beijing map to see, because they always enter and exit at the same subway station. And we like to see where are these subway stations. And it turned out to be those lines that's always close to the peripheral of the city, where the slums meets the city border, and as well as the last stop of the subway. So you can see those high lines of the blue columns that indicates those stations. And the yellow area, which are the slums area in Beijing. So you can see mostly it's in the south area of Beijing. So it gives us, and then we can, based on that, to use a little bit Google Map and to do some site visits to understand the living condition of them. Yeah, so I would not elaborate a little bit more. It's just a flavor of what we are facing with urban disaster. Is first, these are more frequently happening in China as well as around the world. And then what are the data that we can use as a beginning point, although that's not sufficient enough. But at least we can start to question ourselves and to get some answers, and then really to incorporate the social method and to comprehensive to make our understanding and then drawing to some actions. And I would like to introduce these people who are the urban planners in Beijing. They are not satisfied with their daytime job, so they formed this interest group called City If. Which means they provide the interface for the city as well as asking what if questions. And these are the people who are behind these two little works. It's a pity that they couldn't be here this time, but yeah, we would like to make the cases and with the sharing and to get some feedback from you. And next, I would like to mention that we started this series we called Urban Regeneration 2050. It's a series of a program of workshops and exchange activities that from my organization, China Building Center, we are launching at the end of September at Beijing Design Week. So anyone's interested, feel free to, let's create a network internationally. And Urban Regeneration 2050, in short, is UR 2050, which means everyone, you are the owner of your future. Thank you.